Okay, so now that we've got the basic faders here covered, the second most important thing about running sound is the aux mixes, which you see up here near the top. And so what those are for is for controlling, well, not all of them are for this purpose, but okay, here you see front wedge, back wedge. Now those are those wedges right there on stage. So the front wedge there, and then the back wedge. Those are for the musicians to be able to hear what's going on, because once you're on stage, you're behind the main speakers and it's really hard to hear everything that's coming out. Also, you know, whoever's in front may want to hear more of themselves and less of everyone else, but they still may want to hear everyone else. Or like the drummer can't hear anything in the cage, so he's going to have to adjust his mix so that he can hear everybody on stage. So this is how we do that. Now first you'll see a gain knob like we saw earlier, and that's going to be controlling the main volume that's coming out of the wedge. So just kind of like a main volume is going to turn up everything what they've mixed in there and everything that they haven't. So this is basically the only thing that cannot be controlled with our iPad app, the output volume. So this may be something that you have to adjust when you're back here. The rest of the mix can be adjusted when they use their iPad, so it's probably not going to have to be done a ton when you're back here, but it's nice to know what to do. So say we want to adjust what is coming through the front wedge. So we hit the mix button, and then it's hard to kind of focus here. So you see these I guess row of lights that indicate the levels of the channels that are going through the monitor. So what is going through the front wedge right now? So we have, it's really hard to see, you'll have to take my word for it. So we have bass that's immediately loud, got some keys, Zag guitar, electric guitar 2, acoustic 1 is pretty hot in the mix there, acoustic 2 is a little less, vocals, and Joe for some reason. Well, I guess sometimes the drummer will use that for practice, and so it'll come through the wedge. And then the utility channel. Now, that's the first page of things that are in the mix. Now, how did I know what channels those were? So I just followed it up. Channel 9, hold on a second, okay. Channel 9, bass, and then its volume. Now, how do I adjust that? Say that the person in front of the wedge wants to hear more keyboard. So that's channel 10, so I can just turn that up using this knob here and turn it down. Now these are things that they can do on their iPad app, so someone back here may not have to do this as much, but it's good to know how to do it. Now, you can do that for any of these channels. That would be channels 1 through 24. Now, this is something that all of these auxes have in common. You hit the mix button once and you're going through channels 1 through 24 deciding what you want to hear. But what about if you want to have aux input A, which is the computer, to come through? Well, hit the mix button again, and now you see that all of these are basically grayed out. I mean, I'm turning these and nothing's happening. That's because this is the second page, and so for the second page, see it says press mix twice, and then so now we're selecting the inputs here. So our input are the FireWire, which is how we connect the board to the computer. So if we're playing something from the computer, well, I should clarify, this computer as if we recorded every single channel. The other computer, aux input A, would be what we would use for Pandora, or if we had a Pro Presenter video. So now this FireWire here would be, you know, the channel by channel big mix on the middle computer. So that's gone. Tape in we're not using. Aux in A and aux in B, those are set in the wedge. So that's the music coming from the this iMac. That's that one. And then aux in B is, if I can come down here, this, which is a airport, I think it's Airport Express base station, which allows AirPlay through an Apple device. So if someone had an iPhone, they would be able to AirPlay into this device, which is connected to the board, and then comes in through aux input B. But I'll probably go over that in a little bit. You don't really have to pay attention to that right now. And then effects A and effects B I'll talk about later. Those aren't that important. And then the talkback we don't use. So really the main things are aux in A and aux in B. Those are going to the wedge. Now, you see the mix button is still selected. Okay. So that's the third time I've pressed mix, and now we're back where we used to be. So again, so we hit mix once. We're mixing channels 1 through 24, adding those to the wedge and whatnot. Hit mix again. We're mixing the FireWire, tape in, aux in A, aux in B, effects A, effects B, and talkback. Again, these two, aux in A and aux in B, are the main ones we're concerned about. Hit mix again, and we're out. And so that's what how you mix any of these auxes. And okay, so we have the front wedge, back wedge. Ears number 1 is drums. Ears number 2 and ears number 3 are we have capability to provide more monitors for people if they want them. They are not used now. So you see that the volumes are turned down. The stream, which is going to this device here, which is connected to the computer, that's how we get the audio from the board to Ustream. And then the submix. And this is really tricky, and I'm not going to go into this quite yet. And then we have effects A and effects B, which I'm also not going to talk about right now. But another thing that is pretty important I just thought about is, so you see the front wedge and back wedge, aux 1 is front wedge, aux 2 is back wedge. Now, aux 3 and aux 4 is the drum monitor. That's because they are linked together. So here, you know, I selected this and it just selected aux 1. I selected the back wedge, it only selected aux 2. But if I select aux 3, it's selecting both aux 3 and aux 4. And likewise, if I select aux 4, it's selecting both of them. That's because the stereo link button is activated. So what that's essentially doing is whatever's going into these, this would be their left ear and this would be their right ear. So it's basically allowing them to customize their mix in a stereo fashion rather than just a single channel mono fashion like these speakers. Because these are speakers and these are headphones. So, you know, we may want to customize, okay, move things into the left channel, move things in the right channel. So that makes it a bit tricky. You got to make sure that these volumes are the same. Now the other day I came in and I was playing drums and I could only hear things in my right ear because it was set like this. So they need to make sure that those are the same volume there. And of course, you go through the same process to mix. And for the left, that's, so if you have something that's linked, the mix is going to be what we were doing earlier. Now, mix pan, it's not going to be mix, it's going to be pan in this case because it's linked. So we can pan different devices that I'm going to talk about in a minute. So don't worry about that right now. But the point is, aux 1, mix it using this button. Aux 2, mix it using this button. Aux 3 and 4, which is the drums, mix it using this button. Set the pan using this button. And that applies if the stereo link button is on down here. And so the other ones that are linked are aux 5 and aux 6 and aux 7 and aux 8. Those are the ones that are linked. Aux 1 and 2 are not. So that is the auxes.